All right, so we're going to talk about why you need a blog and how you can get a blog. So with anything, we'll go with a quick explanation of why do we need a blog? What's the point? So a lot of different things happen when you stand up a blog for yourself. One, you get a notebook online forever that's easily referenceable. You could even share it with friends and colleagues and impress them. If you've figured out a super niche technical problem, then write it down. Put it in your notebook, put it on your blog, post about it. And let's see. So it's basically, a blog really is for you, and that other people can read it is a side effect. So why else do we have a blog? You sharpen your skills. So there's when I was training for, this is years ago, I am not athletic in the slightest anymore, but when I was training for a 5K, we were doing laps around the parking lot, and my friend looked over at me and he said, "You know how you get good at running fast?" And in between breaths, he said, "Run fast." So how do you get good at writing? You write. If you're kind of new to writing things just in general, the first couple drafts are going to be a little bit rough, and that's totally okay because you learn by doing, and you're doing this only for yourself. You're not getting graded on it. It's not going to make or break your career. So don't be hard on yourself when you start. You're also going to sharpen your tech skills. If you're running this online and you're not, if you're going to do it the way that we're going to show it to you here, you're going to have to understand a couple of technical things, and you're going to have a very easy topic to go to talk about when you're running a little bit short on topics and you need a topic to talk about. This will always be available for you. So let's take this. There's a bunch of other reasons, but now we'll go into how do we make a blog? There are a lot of different ways of doing this. I'm just going to show you the one that I do. So the chain of events that I have is I have some workstation that has really big text. So we'll just make the box bigger. And so what I'm doing with that is I've got a local Git repo that I'm then committing to. And so what's in this repository is just static text files. We'll see it a little bit later when I show the terminal and the content, and we'll make a live blog post here in the presentation. But your ideal here is simplicity. Like, I'm typing Markdown, but that's because it's the year 2022 and people love Markdown. But in a few years, we're probably all going to throw that away in favor of some other language. So really the key here is simplicity, that it be simple text that's easy to edit / update and is transferable. So the key to making this happen is done with a static site generator, of which there are many. The one that I use to run my blog is Python Pelican. Being honest, if I could start all over again, I probably would go with Hugo. It's Pelican is fine. And because of inertia, I'm probably not going to change anytime soon. But working with trying to come up with the themes and coming up with the colorings and the formatting for the code samples, in my opinion, kind of quickly gets away from you. They encourage you to write up your own CSS rules and everything like that. I'm not really a CSS kind of person over here, so it's a skill set I don't have, so I'm not really interested in doing that. But you pick the one that works great for you. And the intention with this static site generator is, let's just pan down here for a second. So the way that a static site generator works is I've got simple text. I feed that into my static site generator, and then that is going to create for me beautiful web pages. So the magic here is that they are static, that I don't need to have like a full-on web server. In fact, if you have as so much as just an S3 bucket, you can upload those contents up to your S3 bucket check a couple of configs, and now you're serving your website out of a globally available durable store. More on that in just a second. So what I have is my static site generator that's stored in my Git repo. And then when I do a git push, that means there's a new version of the code that's over in this Git repo. And now who's hosting my blog? I heard about this place called Netlify through working with a colleague back and forth. You get to talking, and the topic of blogs came up, and he had commented that a lot of people love the free program, the free tier on Netlify. So the reason that this works for me is, like, imagine if I had just a VPS, right? If I have a droplet in DigitalOcean, or I make an EC2 instance in Amazon, that's a running VM, and a lot of things now happen. I have a VM I have to take care of. I have to update it. I have to patch it. I have to install fail to ban. I have to do, like, I got to do a bunch of stuff. I just want to run a blog. That's hard. So I don't want, and the biggest part of it is, it's a single IP address. If it goes down, my entire blog is going to go down. The cool kids over at Netlify have built a globally durable and distributed system that all I do is just upload some plain text, and they're going to build it for me, and they're going to host it all for me through their own CDN. So I get to stand on the shoulders of giants. I don't have to run any of that infrastructure. And this is on the free tier, so I don't even have to pay for that. So far, we're in for zero cost on the Netlify hosting. I've got a free Git repo over here on GitHub. I'm using an open source static site generator. I haven't paid for anything yet. There is an ultra small nominal cost to this entire thing that we'll see in a minute. So when I do a git push, I've configured my Git repo with a webhook that's going to contact Netlify. That's going to say, hot new content available. That webhook, I should probably put in here, webhook. That webhook is going to trigger Netlify to pull in the new version of my Git repo and run the build command that I've told it to run, and it's going to generate and then host my website for me, just like this. Which in my case is a blog. You can of course do an actual full-blown website if you wanted to. It's just another static site that gets created. So now that this whole thing has been stood up, the last hook here is, like, how do I get my actual website? So I have a domain that I bought. I bought that at Google. Feel free to buy it wherever it makes sense to you. Domain points to here. Points to there. So I'll walk you through what that looks like next. So first stop is the Google domain. So over here, I've got tacticalprogramming.com. These are a bunch of subdomains that I've farmed out to various Route 53 zones. But really what matters here is this A record here is going to point over to the Netlify servers. So that's our domain. We'll look at the Git repo real quick. So this is, let me see if Python, there we are. So you can get started here. Just grab a copy of Pelican, like pip install Pelican, and then get going. You can set up a site. Their walkthroughs have a nice little, well, a walkthrough on how to set up your first site, and that generates all the content for you. Take your content, stuff it into a Git repo, and it looks a little bit something like this. Almost all of this is based, so like one or two of these are config files, and the rest is content that gets automatically created for me by the Pelican static site generator. The content that I have is all markdown files that lives in a Git repo here. And this is what gets picked up by Netlify and consumed. Speaking of Netlify, if we look over here, so this is my account on Netlify. I've got a website wired in called Tactical Programming. And if I come over, let's see, So under build and deploy, there's these build settings here. This is how I tell Netlify what to do with my static site generator. So this is going to be specific to the static site generator that you choose. Pelican ships with a makefile, and it has a number of targets in there. One of them is called publish. That creates all of the quote official website content for me, and it creates it all in a directory called output. So all I'm telling Netlify here is grab the code, run the command to make publish, and when it's done, take everything that's in the output directory and publish that across your entire CDN. Did I miss anything? And the end result is a super minimal, kind of awful looking blog that I can talk to at any time. Did I miss anything? No, that's the whole thing. So what we'll take with this now is we'll walk through making a new blog post. We'll go ahead and do a git commit. We'll do a push, and we'll see if we can chase down the build over on Netlify's systems and show what a new blog post looks like. So like any technical blog, it's going to begin with a terminal. So I've got my repo cloned down, tactical programming, and I've put myself in my content directory. And I went ahead and just stubbed out a simple little text file that is my new content. So this is just simple post, simple markdown, title, date of publish, category if you want. And I mean, I imagine we've all worked with markdown formatted files before. So we have, usually when I make a blog post, I like to kind of keep to a sort of framing, like as a technical problem. So you'll figure this out more as you write more and more posts. You'll find a format and a flow that works well for the content that you're trying to deliver. And you can start to rally around that kind of delivery method. So for me, I like to keep it nice and simple. There's a problem, here's the solution, and here's a quick step-by-step. And then depending on your language of choice, you can have whatever bells and whistles, code snippets, link outs to whatever problems you've got. So what we'll do is go ahead and add that guy. Okay. Super secret password. Oh, is that a fact? Look at that. I thought I was doing good. Let's take a chance. We're doing this live. All right. There we go. Tell me you're not going to take the content. So our new content is now up in our Git repo. Let's go chase that. So if I see this, we go ahead and hit refresh. So here's our new commit right here. And if we come over into Netlify and look at the high level, I believe buried in here is previous builds. Here's one right now. Currently building. So this is grabbing my static site generator, running that make publish. This thing's already live. Tells me site is live. So there might be a little bit of caching, but if we come over to the website and hit the refresh button, just like that. So the reason that I really like this ultra simple approach is there should be very little barrier to entry for when you write a blog post. If you have an idea, you should be able to quickly turn around, bang out an idea, publish it, and then keep on going with your work. Because if it make it easier to do something, you can do that. You're going to find yourself doing it more often. That is a blazing fast overview of what I hope is a fairly simple approach to building out a technical blog. Maybe I should write another post just kind of enumerating over this so people don't have to watch a video on that. That was hyper fast, y'all. Is there is there anything else that, well, what I mean to say is open the floor to questions and comments at this point, especially if you've got any questions on like how this works or any of the design choices.
I have a question. So Netlify, I mean, granted, you probably have a better source, you know, if someone's using it, they like it and all that. I mean, I did play around and I didn't really publish much, but officially, but I was playing with Hugo. And I think there's options to do GitHub hosting, because I know you can just do static pages directly on GitHub.
Yes.
And then Firebase. I mean, Firebase I think is not as standard, but yeah, like I was just curious, talk about the benefits of using Netlify. And granted, there's like a whole tooling behind it. If you just went directly to GitHub static hosting, if that's an option, why wouldn't you, I guess?
It's a good choice, a good question. How much so one question that I have for you is, when I was looking at this, and this is years ago, so GitHub Pages today is certainly much more advanced than what I was looking at when I was looking around for a home. Does it work basically how I described Netlify? Like, could I just take this and it'll take my build command and I can have like custom themes and etc. like that?
I mean, you can host a static site. I don't know what dependencies there are with was it Pelican? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, I've played with it before, and I mean, you just have to. You used to have to be a public repo, but that was before there was free private repo. So I don't know if that's a requirement. There's some DNS thing you do, and I think it's one of those you drop some magic file just to wire it up. I mean, I have a vague memory of this now.
Yeah.
And then you can do pages there. But as far as just, for example, I think of someone who has a blog. Maybe you want metrics. I know you can use, we'll say Google Analytics or whatever other tools. Maybe Netlify has functionality that supports that. Just what comments, which is certainly not a GitHub or Netlify thing, but I know that whole discuss.
Yeah.
I guess, do you have any thoughts about allowing comments or pulling in another tool that supports the comments for you?
Right. So a couple of good questions. On the GitHub Pages, it looks like this works great. It looks like it kind of cuts out the need for like the webhook and instructing Netlify to do the building for you. It looks like you're on the hook for doing the building, but like you got to do the building anyway because you're working on it locally. So like this makes total sense to me. I mean, if you're starting from scratch, I think this is a great place to go. Comments. I am firmly of the opinion that my technical blog that's for me to write down thoughts and share with people. If you want to hold a conversation, go somewhere where you hold conversations. I'm not really sure I've seen a lot of blogs that have constructive comment sections, period. Yeah, thinking more about that. Definitely not interested in the comments part. I mean, if you are, then certainly whatever's going to make that work for you. It looks like Firebase is, it looks like it's a Google version of Netlify. Is that about right, Brian?
I don't know about that. I think it's meant more for app developers to host. I don't know. I don't know the extent of Netlify. I only know your one use case, right? But but I don't think posting a blog is really the intent. But Hugo has some direct tie into that. So I think if you create a resource there,
I see.
It's going to do it for you. So I don't know if it's really an unusual thing to be doing, but it's the free tier, just like a lot of free tiers out there. But it's sort of masked. You set it up and then it's masked by Hugo doing a build. And again, this is a while ago. I was playing with it. So
no, that's cool. And that's kind of the benefit of
yeah, I mean,
for you. So like, have you worked on, like, have you set up something using Hugo and tied it into something?
Yeah, I did. I was testing out a blog. I had like 4 posts and then forgot about it until this talk. But it wasn't a technical blog, and it wasn't in my my identity was not public because it was like a personal thing, sharing personal things, not
Right. Yeah, it was a personal. Like I've got one of those too. Like I've got this guy for the technical thing, but I've got a personal version too.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of starting out now is like Hugo is, you know, there's just better systems out there, and like look at where did it go? Here we are. I mean, all these integrations here, like no doubt Hugo ties into these. It just makes it easier to do things, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that looks cool. And you know, like I said, this whole thing here, this is just one way of doing it. You could totally go to like GitHub pages. I mean, honestly, if you're looking for a lower barrier to entry, like go with this for sure. Looks like everything is taken care of. But there's multiple ways to go about it. Really, the point is it should be simple, and don't be afraid to write posts. God knows I've made some posts that are just kind of, they're only useful to one person, and even then only for 10 minutes. Yeah, thanks for that, Brian. Any other thoughts or questions? I know this was ultra short. That's kind of on purpose. So I was kind of hoping to drive home that it's really easy to set up a blog. So easy, you can talk about it in 10 minutes.
Did you originally consider hosting it on one of the free platforms, or is it all about owning it, controlling it, or just a nice hobby spin on top of sharing information?
Yeah. I love this question, specifically about owning it. The other main concern, yes, was owning it. What's that blogging platform that everybody can contribute to where they don't own the domain? It's Medium.
Medium, yeah.
So like Medium is great, except they own the platform, they own your content, they own the domain. Like your blog is your identity. So once you get comfortable enough with the content, this becomes part of your portfolio, right? This turns into, here's like all the things that I've written on. And it turns into a reference to say like, no, like I do have some technical chops here. This is what it is. And when you own the domain, you know, people breaking into accounts and stealing information notwithstanding, no one can take that away from you. You're not at the whim of your content host. So if I'm on Medium, like I have to play by their rules, and they're going to start gatekeeping people. They're going to prevent readers from following me. I just want to lower the barrier to entry entirely for anyone to read it. And like you said, Brian, I want to own that domain and that material. That really is the primary concern. And part of it, yeah, I wanted to say I could do something that used like webhooks and a little bit of a flow to it. So certainly looking back at it a number of years in, it's definitely a little more complicated than it needs to be. If I were to start from scratch, it probably wouldn't look like this, but it's simple enough for me for now, and it's pretty maintainable at the moment.
Yeah, the other thing I thought was interesting when you have self-hosted static blogs, you can backdate. Like, you know, use the hosting platforms are usually locked in your public. So if you have like a silo of blog posts, or you want to move platforms, you don't have to worry about the dates kind of being at the time it was committed or whatever else.
Right. Well, that's the material. Let me reach for, let's do this real quick.